Welcome to Season 2, Episode 30 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
And back with us, Mr. Wrestling expert himself, Connor Casey.
What's going on?
And from the trenches of keeping this whole operation afloat during coronavirus, producer Jim Viscardi is back with us.
Hello.
And if you can't tell, we've assembled our wrestling crew here on Comic Book Nation because coronavirus ain't stopping WWE, as we've detailed in our crazy WrestleMania coverage. And WWE rolls on with a new event, the 2020 Money in the Bank. And this has me kind of tripped out this time because I feel like we've been doing this show long enough that I had you guys here for like the 2019.
Yeah,
we did.
And like
back around.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where I started really getting deep into like listening to you guys at least describe all this. And I was like, wait, and I was like tripped out. I was like, wait, is there like 2 a year? I had to like look it up. I was like, no, it's been a full year since we talked about the last one. So
Time is a flat circle, Kofi.
yeah, we were in a very different, we were all talking about we were in the darkest timeline last year when this was going on. Little did we know.
Little did we know.
So here we are again, Money in the Bank, WWE, a very different year, very different WWE. We also had some things happening on that front, so it's time for another WWE rundown, which has become a favorite of the show. But before we get to wrestling, we also have a bunch of comic booky stuff to talk about. Marvel, there are rumors in the air that kind of one of the fan favorite Marvel series could be getting an adaptation soon for the MCU. We got some good news on the front of Marvel television series that a hint that Falcon and the Winter Soldier maybe be back on track and getting back into production. We've also got, apparently while I was gone securing meat for my family, we were also dropped that we're getting a National Treasure and Disney Plus series. So there's a lot of beef within these walls of comic book to settle on that front. So we'll talk about that. Plus, if we have time, I guess now that's got to be bumped back. But yeah, Nick Cage is going to be the Tiger King. So that's a small matter we also must discuss. And if that wasn't enough, I'm going to try to help everybody straighten out what the hell just happened with Rick and Morty. So we're going to talk about that too. So got a lot to get to. Let's get to it. Starting right at the top, like I said, we have some Marvel news. You know, it's kind of hard because right now everything like Marvel's production on TV movies has been shut down, like everything else in the entertainment industry because of the coronavirus pandemic. But that hasn't stopped, you know, the fun time of rumors and speculation or just talk of things that are being tossed around or in development from kind of circulating. And out of the rumor mill, we got this latest kind of talking point that there's going to be that Secret Warriors is going to be happening and kind of is in development behind the scenes over at Marvel Studios. And the caveat is I don't think it's said specifically how it's going to take shape, whether this would be like a Disney Plus series, an event film, or whatever it would be, an event series. But that Secret Warriors is basically being kicked around behind the scenes and could kind of come to fruition within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this is something that, you know, we've talked about. I've kind of put it out there that I really liked Secret Warriors, especially during like the Dark Reign storyline and Nick Fury's kind of team. And if you don't know what this is, like, it was a covert team led by that kind of Nick Fury assembled in secret that had Quake, as you know, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., plus Daisy Johnson, plus a bunch of other kind of, I forget if the hook was that they were like sons and daughters of people who...
Yeah, they were kids of people who had powers, right?
Yeah.
So there was...
It was Runaways, really.
There was like the son of
villains,
Druid.
Right? Yeah, it was like villains.
Was there. Absorbing Man's kid was a part of the team. And it's just, I mean, the timing of this is interesting, right? Because Secret Warriors came out during made their debut during Secret Invasion, and that's been the big talk. Like, you know, Captain Marvel 2 is probably going to deal with Secret Invasion in some sort. We're probably going to get a Secret Invasion TV show of some sort, and so naturally this one is, you know, this is kind of thrown into the mix as something that would happen. They've made such a big deal about the Secret Warriors in the past that it feels weird to potentially go down this road again so soon.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of pulled this card, like I
Yep.
remember in season 3, I believe, where they were basically kind of operating as like Fury or Coulson's Secret Warrior team.
Yep.
That's when kind of Daisy Johnson and the whole Sky thing dropped, and we got a proper Quake.
Yep.
You know, Yo-Yo and Lincoln, and you had these kind of metahuman, or not Mets DC, but you had these kind of enhanced, kind of doing their thing and like dealing with that whole storyline. But I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Adam Barnhart isn't here. I don't want to make him mad, but like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. occupies that weird
Or
gray
Jamie.
area.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love that show, but it occupies a weird gray area where if Marvel Studios wants to reuse Secret Warriors, Kevin Feige's reusing Secret Warriors.
Right. Well, and that's kind of my thing. That's why I don't feel like it's going that route. I feel like the natural way for this to go is to go where they've adopted the name since then, which is in the Marvel Rising series, because they've already got parts of those characters in play, whether it's in the MCU or Miss Marvel's part of the team. We know that's coming to Disney Plus. That interpretation suits a Disney Plus series very well.
I do not want a Marvel Rising team as the sequel.
I'm saying if you're looking for
that
Marvel, no, here's the thing. Well, no, it's fine. You're gonna get a lot of gems. Okay, I understand that. Like some people just hold Secret Warriors to like this.
Well, that's what I was kind of.
It's not a gem to me. Like I get
jump gun me into rolling it because I was trying to go through slowly and point out there's been several like everything in Marvel. There's been several iterations of this team. The one that we started with Nick Fury's kind of thing has been kind of, bastardized by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and their version of it. But there was this whole other Marvel Rising thing, which, is a much more quirky version, like with like Squirrel Girl and Miss Marvel and all that stuff. So,
and it's more recent. And also more popular than I'm sorry, Jim, the original Secret Warrior series.
Look,
which, by the way, was rebooted, and then no one still cared when it came back.
The original Secret Warrior series.
I like
the original Secret Warrior series is where we got the surprise that Hydra was controlling S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, that's great. And then what? But in the MCU, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of that stuff is, like Kofi said, such a weird gray area niche thing that honestly, if they're gonna adapt this and roll with the series, I don't think they want to get into that mess. I don't know. I don't think they want to do that. They would rather just. And also, we've heard rumors of the MCU wanting Power Pack and these all ages type of content, and Disney Plus is going. Like Disney Plus has a Miss Marvel series in production. Why wouldn't you just loop this in?
I am still of the belief that they are going to find some way to retcon that entire show.
Agents of
S.H.I.E.L.D. They're going to end that show, and it's going to be the entire thing was Tahiti. And it was in Coulson's head.
Well, now the grenades on the floor.
And none of it has happened. And they're going to just erase that entire thing. They'll find a way to bring Coulson back. And then they'll bring the Secret Warriors back in a way that it should have been. That this show needs to be an espionage kind of show, not a wacky, zany, colorful, whatever the hell Marvel Rising is.
I think both can exist, by the way. But as far as both,
and to settle this, I think both will be. If we've learned anything about the MCU, they'll pick the best of both worlds and throw them together. So it will be an espionage show about a quirky team of espionage heroes like Squirrel Girl, who can actually somehow pull off great espionage stuff using squirrels. So, there's room for that to exist.
Secret Avengers, man.
Stop. And Jim's not necessarily wrong. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is playing with a time travel storyline for its final season, with like changing the past and setting a new future.
Mm-hmm.
So, or
they all get stuck and only Coulson makes it back.
Okay, but do you really see them doing that big of a retcon?
I mean, this is the Marvel multiverse now. It's not a retcon anymore. It's like a Marvel. Avengers Endgame kind of screwed them out of that because it's not a change. It's a new timeline.
It's a new timeline.
So now everything that happened to Coulson and them will exist in some asterisk timeline of the MCU that makes everybody happy. It's still official, but just this.
True.
They're going to Dragon Ball this whole thing.
I don't know if they. And
then Coulson Black, which they've also already done. Coulson Black showed up. Evil Coulson, we've already gone down this path, but it wasn't his body.
It would be a great move. I'm not gonna lie. Like if they pull it off, like I would change my look at that because I don't view it as that.
I think Jim's right. I think they've been trying to figure out how to get out of this box, and this is the way.
Yep.
I mean, they're like, okay, we changed the past, we did some stuff. Now there's this. Then we'll find out like their timeline is like the one they make is the real MCU and blah 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 something. I don't know, but that's not my job. I'm not doing their job for them. There's a way out of this to kind of reset it and keep Secret Warriors fresh. And I think they should amalgamate both concepts because there's fans of both. And the espionage and Fury's kind of secret team thing. The thing that I always loved about that was kind of like the underlying messed upness of like Nick Fury, like master manipulator, like taking these kids and building them into like basically child soldiers of like a fighting force.
Yeah, so him essentially being Xavier. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's like it's kind of like Nick Fury's X-Force, but like not that's more to me the Secret Avengers, but like the
and not as bad because Xavier is a terrible person and like manipulated people's minds.
Okay, you've gone off on I don't know what is going on with you in isolation. You freaked out on Xavier. You freaked out on Hawkeye. You're freaking out on like Secret.
I didn't freak out on Hawkeye. I was
Hawkeye. You're talking smack.
I freaked
about
out
Hawkeye?
on. I talked. Well,
we're gonna cut out a clip of that. I'm not gonna argue
about Hawkeye in front of Jim. I will say, Mr. Fantastic and Xavier, the two people I went off on.
Oh, I forgot Reed Richards.
Horrible people.
Too.
Well deserved.
Reed Richards.
Well, thank you.
Hawkeye, Xavier,
and throw Beast in there too because he's terrible too.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway,
So
it's the Marvel Universe. The Marvel Universe is full of terrible people.
Moving right along, they're flawed characters, Matt. That's why it's not.
They have God complexes and they're terrible.
That's DC. Okay, so moving over to the side you may like. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So this production has been shut down. They were in the thick of it, shooting all these big action sequences and stuff in and around San Francisco. Then they were going to Eastern Europe. Then the coronavirus kind of swept across the world, and we had to lock down that production like so many others. But Eastern Europe is kind of getting back to implementing protocols for reopening productions. The Czech Republic specifically, the city of Prague in the Czech Republic, where Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of sitting. So this is kind of the first open door to Marvel being able to get back up and, get back up and shut and kind of resume production on this. And my question is, do you think that Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I don't know the ins and outs of where they were in production.
I think they only have about like 2 weeks left.
Yeah, they were filming. It seemed like they were, from what I know and experience in productions, like it seemed like they were getting kind of like the last big stuff out of the way.
Yep.
Some of the bigger sequences and things like that to do, all these chase sequences and explosions and fights. So I could see them having the bulk of the series kind of in the can and having to do these last big things they had scheduled. Do you think they can get this all together and on the screen on Disney Plus in time for, if not right in like August when they were teasing, then like early fall, September?
I would have to imagine that they have started to do work on the early episodes, right? Like that maybe they're going to have to forego any reshoots they may need to do on that front. Or if they would do it in Pinewood in Atlanta, which, that state is open, so maybe they'll go there. It'll be, I can't imagine they're gonna, like, even with the Czech Republic being open, that they're going to say, all right, cast and crew, let's all get on an airplane and fly to the Czech Republic. Yeah. Like I don't think that's happening.
It really just depends on where they were. I from what I understood, I thought they were like almost done with, like they were just doing post. That's what I understood. Like they were really doing more post-production stuff and not actual, like we have to shoot sequences and stuff. So like if it was post and like that kind of thing and maybe like a scene or something, I would say like, yeah, it's way more probable. If it's actually like having to shoot chase sequences and things, I would still doubt that, I still think somehow they might be able to hit that like fall timeline that you were talking about. But, I don't know if they could pick up right where they left off, even now, even with the relaxed stuff.
There's a double-edged sword to this because, getting the whole cast and crew out there is a problem. You can stagger the flights, you can do all that.
Yeah.
But right now, in getting in the country and staying there is not easy. Like, let's just be clear. You got to get to the border. They got to test you. They're going to do a Roto-Rooter style test on you to make sure you're okay, just to let you in. Then in 3 days, they show back up to be like test number 2.
Yeah.
And you got to stay kind of quarantined until the test result comes back negative. And that's to avoid a mandatory 2-week quarantine.
Yep.
So there's a lot of ways that this can go downhill once you even get there, and they're just trying to do this. But on the other hand, you got to figure that like the timing is you got to strike while the iron's hot, because you got to figure like right now, while things are still slowly opening up, is like a prime time to actually get out in the streets and like film stuff.
True.
As opposed to when it's like full on and everybody's just like outside, and we start working on that wave too, because everybody runs out together because everybody's kind of hyped.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's not my problem. I just got to report on whatever.
But you don't want to get stuck there either, and like all get in. Hey, we're here, and then you get everything done, and then you're like, oh, I can't get back home now for like 2 months.
Like, gonna get that Tom Hanks. Yeah, right.
Like you got to in and get out. It has to be a very secret.
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of like we're just starting this discussion, but this is the real kind of consideration for film and TV making for the foreseeable future. Just getting into these countries, getting this done, getting out again, and keeping this all on any kind of schedule.
Well, that's what I feel like. And I feel like,
well, let me just finish. Like on a normal day, getting a film or TV production together is a small miracle of moving parts. True. And like, without the added X factor of all these coronavirus things that could go wrong and just completely shut you down for mandatory 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so it's going to be wild.
Yeah. Well, I think also too, like you got to imagine that there's probably going to be like a bump in insurance, and will there be insurance that covers, COVID related,
don't get down into the liabilities.
But that's what I mean, right? So like there's going to be that liability thing. And so you just got to see like who is going to be the first one willing to make that jump.
Well, I mean, it's a rabbit hole because I think this stuff is still being figured out, because like, it's like, yeah, liability is a huge question. We don't punish people for people getting the flu at the restaurant. Is that supposed to apply to COVID? Is that not? Like, is that different? Yeah. Like, we're still in the midst of all this. This is going to be such a crazy cluster of societal and international kind of things to try to navigate. So, I don't know. I just want to see the Falcon and Winter Soldier like in the fall. That's like where I'm coming from. If you give me the last half, it just switches to like one of those fan things with a bunch of toys and stuff. Like, I'll take that as a final fight. Why not? Like, it's 2020. I'll take what I can get. All right. So we'll keep you updated on what's going on with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Marvel Secret Warriors. Jumping over, Matt put it in the show notes, but he did not provide a link. So he did half a job. We're getting a National Treasure TV series for Disney Plus. Oh, and you didn't even put in the added gem that even though we're getting this Disney Plus National Treasure TV series, we're also still having National Treasure 3 in development with the original cast. This is a great day for America. So
I can't tell. Is that sarcastic or
no? I mean, have you not been okay? So just context. This is a good time to stop and do one of these like real life anecdotes. In the comic book offices back in that time when they still existed, like there were many fights that were had around the campfire of our computer screens.
Very true.
If there was Chick-fil-A versus Wendy. But also one of the big ones was about National Treasure and what makes it like a classic movie. Brandon Davis has some pretty wild out there ideas about like Chicken Run and stuff, and but it has like, but there was a lot of love for National Treasure, unexpected amount of love for National Treasure in The Office, and
I think that was the great unifier.
Yeah, but that was the thing we all could come together about, that we needed, that should have been prioritized, was National Treasure 3. With all these other kind of long delay, awaited sequels and whatnot, we needed National Treasure 3. Now we're getting it, and we're getting a Disney Plus series. So I am not being sarcastic, Matthew. I am very happy about that. Because, and this came from Jerry Bruckheimer, right? So super producer Jerry Bruckheimer. So the one for Disney Plus, he says, is a younger cast, same concept, but a young cast, and the theatrical one is the old school kind of adults. Nick Cage, Diane Kruger, and I forget everybody else who's in But anyway, so National Treasure, I'm kind of really happy about that. That's a good time because I love those. National Treasure is weirdly one of the only movies to really kind of nail that Indiana Jones.
Yes. I was just gonna say that.
And
it's
kind
so
of
true.
And even though it's some weird like knockoff 2000s Indiana Jones,
well, it's weird because it's like
a lot of fun.
It's like Indiana Jones meets the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, and I learned a lot. You learn a lot about American history watching National Treasure, oddly enough.
Also, it gave us that amazing Andy Samberg Nicolas Cage impression where he's always talking about the Declaration of Independence. It's worth it just for that. No, I agree though. Like better than the Indiana Jones series has done itself. It captures that fun adventure vibe of just like, hunting down the clues and it's so fun. And like there's some really great talent in those. Like comedically, I feel like they're very underrated. Like they're funny, like genuinely funny. Kind of like the Mummy movies used to be, like that same style of humor and just like hitting that right snarky bit at the right moment. They're great. So yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm not so like pumped about the series because it doesn't have those people. It still could be great. And I'm all for like booting that for a new generation and stuff. But
I feel like the series needs to have Nicolas Cage for people to get excited about it.
Just Nicolas Cage and a bunch of kids.
Like he would do it. The dude will take the money.
That's not creepy. It'd be awkward. It would not be creepy. That's not where I was going with that. Like
everything with Nick Cage is awkward.
I didn't say anything. You just saw my expression. Yes. No, I agree though. I feel like Nick Cage needs to be involved in some way. Then I would you're describing me. I would be excited if Cage was some kind of mentor or like, oh my God, like teaching a school of adventurers. Like that would be crazy and weird. And like, you can just get all those over the top Nicolas Cage moments that like every one of his movies has, and they're glorious and they're amazing. Yes, I'm all for that.
And that's kind of just what I wanted to see is Nick Cage like losing it on kids, like getting frustrated as a teacher with kids, and him having like wild Nick Cage moments with like little kids who don't really care. Because we know
some kid's face with like so over the top and dramatic. How dare you?
Yeah, but that's the great thing about kids. Like, you think my kids are scared of me freaking out? No. People in the office are scared of me freaking out, but my kids just look at me and are like, "What? What? And I'm just like, well, that's ineffective, I guess. Like, and Nick Cage would have the similar experience. It'd be great to watch.
Dude, that face off. Let's get him in that.
Yeah. Face.
Yeah, that face off.
He took his face off. So. We got time. I guess we're going to roll through. So, and just mention, in addition to this, if that wasn't enough Nick Cage in our docket, Nick Cage is going to be playing Joe Exotic from Tiger King, and basically in a new scripted TV series. And it's an 8-episode limited series, and it's going to be based on
that is original. Separate from the one that like
Kate McKinnon is in, right?
Yeah,
Kate McKinnon is doing.
This is
they need to join forces.
And so like basically it's based on the Texas Monthly article that kind of really broke into Joe Exotica and like what he was all about. And this is going to be oh god. It's going to be thing. I'll read it. The series will tell the tale of Joel Schreibvogel, aka Joe Exotic. The series follows Joe during his attempts to keep a struggling zoo under increased scrutiny and attempts by outside forces to shut him down. The series intends to examine how Schreibvogel, and now legally named Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage, became the notorious Joe Exotic. So it's a Joe Exotic origin story, essentially, with Nick Cage, which is going to be beyond interesting.
Like it's gonna be, whether it's good or not, it has no bearing in this discussion. It's gonna be amazing.
We have to see it. Like,
yes,
we have to see it. There is no debate about that. Like as soon as they told me that, I was like, well, I got to see it. It's just crazy because did anybody actually like nominate Nick Cage when we were all going Tiger King casting crazy like a couple weeks ago?
I feel like it was too obvious. Which is why no one picked it.
Yeah, I think so. I think because I know a couple of names made, but I don't think Cage did. And now, thanks to Jim, because I wrote that deep fake story, I can't get his face out of my mind every time I see a Tiger King trailer. It's nuts. Now it's like I've already seen it. I have to see the whole thing. I have to see it. Oh my god, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, that's gonna be wild.
Isn't there a movie too in development based on this?
I feel like there is.
And a comic. Like, good lord.
So this is a CBS series.
All access.
Yeah, CBS All Access series. So, I mean, you know it's going to be excellent. So there's that one to watch. That's the only one we really got to worry about. If CBS All Access is...
We don't need to talk about that other one. The other show that won't be named.
Garbage.
Yeah, no, we don't know any other ones. But
Even
this
though it
one's
has
going
Kate
to be...
McKinnon.
This one's going to be worth checking out, and now's a good time to get in CBS All Access. So check that out. All right. It's Twilight Zone Season 2 coming your way. Discovery Season 3 also coming your way. So moving right along, we're going to get into our deep dive section when we get back next. We're going to talk about a little bit of Rick and Morty plus some WWE Money in the Bank. So stay tuned for all of that. All right. So, okay, let's try to unpack this Rick and Morty thing. So Rick and Morty came back this week, finally, for season 4B, essentially the second half of season 4. And, it's 2020, and I feel like if I had more time to indulge in this, there would have been like a louder WTF for me. But like it is 2020, and there's so much going on that this barely like registered on my radar as a major frustration. But basically, this episode came back, and one of the things that Rick and Morty fans, of course, love the most are anthology episodes every season, which have taken the form of things like Interdimensional Cable, which is when they basically show different show concepts from across the multiverse. And it's just increasingly absurd types of shows that they create that are just really wacky and out there. Then we had one in season 3 called Morty's Mind Breakers, which was a kind of clip show, a take on a clip show where Rick has been wiping their memories for years on end and basically stores all the memories he wipes in this room, and they're color coded for different kinds of things. It's like things that things he doesn't like where he embarrassed himself is like one color, and then things he did to other people are like one color. So there was that. And so this was supposed to be the next kind of anthology show, and people were excited and do this. Now, what we got is this episode that took the meta concept and I mean, just, yeah, I can't curse on this app, but Rick and Morty makes me want to curse, but like, I mean, it just mind screwed the meta concept like to like beyond the brink, to this idea that they were on this story train basically that is taking them there, and they're getting in this fight with this guy named Story Lord, and that's the basic premise. But they keep crashing in and out of these different kind of realities or premises for the show's canon, and it's basically was like the point of it. Okay, so let's just get into what this all is. So we saw all these different visions of things, and some of them were very significant. I mean, some of them are like really big pickups on some of the series kind of serialized storytelling. Like we see the return of Bird Person or Phoenix Person for the first time since season 2, or the season 3 premiere rather. We saw like this whole kind of almost Return of the Jedi sequence with Tammy, who was Bird Person and was a secret agent that kind of like had a big twist in the end of season 2. We saw Evil Morty in this seeming final battle between Rick and Morty and Evil Morty's army with all the Meeseeks and the Gazorpazorps and like all these other characters from the show. And none of it really mattered because there were these visions that they just kept crashing and kind of joking that none of this was canon and everything. And so basically it confused a lot of fans because there is no like real clear-cut explanation for all this. I mean, the episode just starts and throws you in the middle. You're on the train and you're meeting these characters, and like for the first 5 minutes, you don't even know where Rick and Morty is. And then they're just suddenly in disguise. There's no explanation of how they got there or like what's happening. And so you just kind of go through this episode. I had to watch it twice just to get my head like around what it would take for me to just watch a normal TV episode. And then I had to kind of sit back and think about it and was like, so what is this all about? So here's just my take and film school breakdown about what this is all about. So basically this episode felt like kind of a half middle finger to, in a lot of ways, I feel like Rick and Morty's going through this growing pain right now. Like we've spoke about it often, where there was this big gap between season 3 and season 4, where Rick and Morty became like an official mainstream hit, like a thing. And I feel like Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon have had trouble adjusting to that reality. And then there's been numerous things in season 4, which are basically kind of commentary on the show trying to buck its own identity as being a thing now. and having all these kind of expectations thrust upon it and stuff. And so this episode basically kind of used this metaphor of like fandom and fan theory and speculation and all this stuff that, you know, some people have been writing about since season 3 came out. Goofy outlaw, but in kind of just playing with this whole idea of that this all important, which Rick and Morty does best, take these all important sacred cows to people and really just turn them on their head or just make fun of them and kind of mock them. And so this is what this was all about. It was basically, it was like a laundry list of, you look at all the visions of things that people have written about or theorized or said this is the big event of the series and it's building up to and the purpose that it's kind of thing. And it basically said, let's just burn through all of these in one kind of episode and free ourselves of all this. And that's kind of what happens in the episode. In the end, they're kind of stuck in this loop of kind of story points that they can't get out of until Rick just gets down and starts having this literal come to Jesus moment where he prays for Jesus. And then everybody's like, wait, no, this is like nothing that would ever happen in Rick and Morty. And he's like, kind of like, exactly. And that's how they kind of get out of this thing, is through calling on Jesus and getting really religious and kind of like breaking the show.
What?
Yeah, because
wow.
yeah, in like Jesus is a character, he comes down, he gets trapped in the story train. Yeah, he's ripped. There's a whole thing about him being ripped. It's like a whole. But the point is, like, they do this thing that would turn people off and make like everybody just be like a metaphor for like how they could just really turn the show into something that would like turn people off and get preachy and do all that stuff. And it's just this whole metaphor for like I said, for fan expectations and speculation and the weighing of importance on kind of narrative. And I get it, because, you know, you look at something like Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, right? And that's kind of, you can see something that like what Rick and Morty is rebelling against is something like that, right? Which was this hodgepodge of like, let's please fans based on their own theories and things and fan, you know, wish list writings. And you end up with this weird Frankenstein monster that doesn't make sense and like has all these continuity errors and stuff like that. And this was just kind of way of just saying, shut up and enjoy the ride, dum-dums, and like, let's stop trying to, you know, put it on. But I don't know about the execution, because a lot of people just watch that, and because you did it at a time when, like, I could get it if it was a second episode when you came back and you did that, but like fan expectation was so high and so excited. And I'm sure this seemed like a good idea back then, you know, when they planned out this season. But in the time of coronavirus, where everybody's been like on lockdown, and we're just happy to have Rick and Morty back, it's just kind of landed wrong. I think.
That's kind of my question, though, because I saw something, and it was probably one of the ones that you wrote, but it was talking about how like this was episode like 7, and then 6 is actually coming after, like the way they plotted the episodes out. So like in your thing of, you know, like this would have been great for the next episode, but kind of mentioning that they're sort of trying to buck their own trend and kind of get ahead of the fact that they're an it show. Is this kind of a thing of like taking the whole like smartest person in the room thing a little too far? Like, we know that the conventional wisdom would be, let's put an episode that is going to be a little easier to get into because we're returning after a break. But no, we're not going to do that. That might be the best thing to do, but we're going to just buck that and put this hard to understand thing right from the gate, just to prove that we're not what like the cool kids are saying. You know what I mean? Like, is that a case? Is that an example of that kind of gone awry? Or is that a good thing that they're kind of trying to do something different?
I don't ever want to say Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon fit the mold of hipsters, because they don't. If anything, they'd be like nihilist comedians, but like that's kind of the nihilism that creeps into Rick and Morty sometimes. Is like, I don't think there's a right. They're kind of guys that I don't think if you were to meet them as like fans, you could walk up and actually say anything that would turn out to be the right thing. Like, you could be like, I love you, I worship you, and they'd be like, that's lame. And you'd be like, you're a douchebag, and they'd be like, you're lame. And like you could say anything. They're in their own bubble of things, like so many creators. And I think like this is kind of just it's in a way it's just them trying to buck the trend and say, you know, this is what is expected, so this is what we're not going to do. And like I said, it's been a running theme this season, right? Like the first episode of season 4 is about like Morty's death crystal visions and thing. And it's about how you kind of, what happens if you live out your life with these kind of pre-written and kind of conceived notions about how things should go and where you should end up and do anything, that you lose the spontaneity, you lose the fun. And through that, there's a whole episode of oh my god, I'm like trying to blank. I just had this one, but the heist episode, which is a kind of another meta deconstruction of the kind of contrivances of narrative, and when you keep using these narrative devices and formulas, how stupid everything gets, and just how meta it can get to the point of just eating itself like an endless black hole. So this is obviously a feeling in their head as they're trying to plot this show forwards. This was just an interesting way that I think confused more people than it actually kind of got the message out to. Because even though it's weird because they're doing everything so heavy and on the nose. They're like, this is a literal story device. Like, it's a train. It's a narrative kind of train device that's carrying us forward. And they do all these very on the nose things, but it's still like it's a really confusing episode. And it messes with you because there are these scenes that would be, for a lot of people's expectations of a series like this, like the climactic like payoffs of all this different storylines, and they just kind of burn through them as jokes. And so, yeah, I mean, it's weird. I really got to see what this next episode this week is going to be. So we'll check back in with Rick and Morty. I'm going to leave you guys some time for wrestling while I sit here and sip my tea. So, Connor, take it away. WWE Money in the Bank. First, I just want to see how excited I am. I've been watching the rise of Killer Cross and Scarlett Bordeaux on Instagram for months now.
Nice, very nice.
They had a good debut at NXT.
Dude, that introduction is fire.
They did make quite the impression. Matt, what do you think of the lip syncing stuff? That was the only thing that kind of lost me.
I thought initially when she starts, I thought it was weird, and then like as it kept going and like the red lights hit and like all that stuff, I kind of like stopped caring and was like, that's kind of cool. Like it fit. It ended up fitting with everything else, but it did rub me the kind of off way of like, that's weird. Like, why are you doing that? But once everything else kind of just kept playing out, it was kind of like everything else in it was like, I'm just in. Like I'm in whatever I'm in.
My only fear with that is I feel like that's not going to be something they're going to want to be doing every week, because you got to.
Oh, you don't have time and production. You don't production money and time for that.
You gotta picture, like, you gotta do these entrances every week the exact same way. They're probably gonna be like, let's tone it down for this so that we can crank it up to 11 for like matches that matter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they've done the same thing with Shinsuke. They've done the same, like we still see his entrance a lot. Like we still see violins.
But we don't see the guy coming out with it though.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll find ways to like, and you can actually watch. You can go to Comicbook.com and watch the intro. It's awesome. It's worth watching. But yeah, there's a lot of like fat in there that you can trim to still get the cool cinematic point across. Like I love how they stand on stage, like the way they come out and like overlay each other and the smug. It was awesome. But yeah, I think they'll trim it because you want it to have some oomph when you get to a takeover or pay-per-view, whenever those happen again.
Right. But anyway, let's get to
Who cares?
the
NXT
point,
is boring.
Exactly. On AEW, they chase down people with golf carts.
You're boring, Jim.
Gosh.
Such a hater.
So boring.
Such a hater. Yeah, he hate great wrestling. I don't know.
I want to like it, but it's boring.
No, you don't. You're full of it. You do not want to like. You've always been this way on NXT. Every time we have a conversation,
their talent is boring.
Kofi, we've touched a nerve.
I'm not touching this.
I don't think it's a nerve. This is just typical Jim.
You're you throw such a grenade. Anyway, Connor, continue. Continue, Connor.
Let's get to the big thing happening this weekend, which is Money in the Bank, WWE, or as I like to call it, the Falcon experiment, because we're going to get 12 people fighting inside of an office. They're going to fight to the death, and they're going to climb. Comparison. Kofi, let me map this out for you.
Say what now?
So
okay.
You get 12 people, 6 men, 6 women. They're going to go inside WWE headquarters. They're going to fight their way up 10 stories. When they get to the roof, there's a wrestling ring set up, and then they have to take ladders, place them in the middle of said ring, and grab briefcases that are hanging precariously above the ring.
I did not realize that there was going to be a ring on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're already threatening. They're already talking about throwing people off the side of the building. So someone's getting chucked.
The minute this was announced, all I saw on social was, "Oh my God, someone's going off that roof. Who's going to be?" And there's like bets, like who's going off the roof.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
So this is going to be nuts. My hope is that it's as good as what we saw at Mania with the Boneyard and Firefly Funhouse match. But Matt, we actually talked about this in the preview that just went up about an hour ago. It needs to, this needs to go all out. This needs to be insane for it to work. Otherwise, it's going to be like the Gargano-Ciampa match, and it'll be boring, like what Jim said.
So it hurt me inside when I saw you said that, and it hurt me more that
that match was not good compared to the other two.
What I was about to say was it hurt me more that I was going to agree with you. Connor. Jim, is that you? So it hurt me that I was going to agree with you, and the same thing can be said for the Edge Orton match, which was also a slog.
That wasn't really cinematic. That was just
it was the same thing of moving someone through a space and just having them beat the snot out of each other, which is fine every so often. For this, because it is going to be understandably like a giant chunk of the pay-per-view, this can't be that. I don't want to see that for an hour, 45 hours long.
So the men's and women's match is happening at the same time?
All at once, yep.
So the theory is they're going to be running into each other.
2 briefcases or 1 briefcase?
2 briefcases, 1 green, 1 white. The white one's the women's. So yeah. Who we got winning this thing? We got 12 people to pick from.
Well, why don't you go through who's in it?
Well, we've got in the men's, we have Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, King Corbin, Matt's boy Otis, and my boy AJ Styles. On the women's side, we got Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Carmella.
Oh, that's Jim's girl, Carmella.
I feel like these are pretty straightforward. And the women's one may be a slight surprise, but the men's one has to be Aleister Black.
I want you to try and picture Aleister running down a ramp with a referee holding a big old neon briefcase.
No, I'm not going to see it. You're just going to see him pop out of his stupid coffin and be like, "I'm coming."
That's not going to look good.
No, it's not. But at the same time, of all of the other people, he is the one who is primed for that. When ready for a push, here's the thing we can use to push.
Yeah,
right. I don't think anyone else really needs that outside. I can see them giving it to AJ Styles, which again, I hate to see because I think AJ's boring, but
you
again,
were going after both of us today.
But I think, he seems to be the only other thing. They're not.
I have this very shaky feeling that Corbin's going to end up with it because they've been hinting at that whole Daniel Bryan thing of he's calling him out on it. The last time went terribly. They have this thing of pushing Corbin for some reason. I don't understand why. So I have this sinking feeling he's going to get it. But I agree with you. I feel like Aleister Black is the one that could benefit the most from it.
The prop itself works best with heels because, hey, sudden title change, run away with it. That's what Seth did. But no one wants to see Baron. And with Aleister, I just think, look at who the 2 world champions are right now. Unless you're turning him, he's not going to try and jump Drew or Braun. So who does that leave you with? My pick is Styles because he's so undersized compared to Braun and Drew that him trying to cash in on either man is going to be hilarious because they're both just going to stand up and tower over him and be like, "What are you trying to do, little guy?"
I would not be surprised. While I don't think it's the most interesting of scenarios to have AJ run with it because that just AJ's already hit a certain status. This isn't going to do anything
thrown
for
off
him.
the building.
He could be.
I can see that.
He's already been killed once this year.
That's it. It's just going to be his thing is going to be he's going to defy death at every.
Never dies.
He never dies.
That's really.
That would be a great gimmick. Is just every month a guy just tries to murder him, and he comes back. Yeah, what happened?
That's interesting. Yes, that I am all for. Yeah, I think. I feel like Black is one of the people that could really use that kind of momentum.
Is there any chance Otis escapes the kitchen,
Matt? Here's the thing. I would have picked Otis hands down for this but he's doing so well with his story, he doesn't need it. But like, yeah, I agree. You've got to have some kind of kitchen segment. You have to have some kind of fridge segment with him. If you don't, that's a missed opportunity. I think the women's is actually more interesting than men's, just because I feel like there's more choices there.
We need more choices. It's going to be Shayna Baszler.
That's what we said last time when she was gonna for sure go over Becky, and it didn't happen. And I agree. I thought that was gonna happen.
Here's the thing: they kind of gave it away because they said Becky's gonna meet whoever wins the briefcase on Monday. That means it's Raw.
I agree. I think it is the one that I want the most, and it is the one that they obviously should go with. WWE has this thing. I don't know if you've noticed. They do a lot of things that just like are head scratchers and don't really fit with what people think. I feel like giving it to Dana Brooke is a one thing that they might do.
If they're gonna give it to anyone, they're gonna give it to like Carmella.
She already had it.
I know exactly, and like she's so good with it that I imagine they would give it back to her.
Here's the thing: on SmackDown, they're building up like a year-long story with Sasha and Bayley. I don't think they're trying to add anybody else into that to try to mess with it.
I know. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I want Baszler to get it. I'm just saying, every time I bet on her, of like, oh, you're going over or it's done, it doesn't happen. So I don't know. I'm gonna say like conventional wisdom says yes.
They need to get the belt off Becky eventually because there's more money in her chasing it than it is just her.
And them Marvel movies.
Exactly.
But also too, like there's also, you can still give it to Baszler.
Yeah.
Still build a Becky Baszler program, have Baszler lose again, and then retaliate with the briefcase and then get the title.
True.
That could be something.
Yeah.
We have that's something we've never seen.
WWE, call me.
We're running out of ideas of how to use this briefcase thing. This is actually this is gonna be the 24th and 25th briefcases we've ever seen. So
which is nuts.
We need new ideas. Any of these other matches matter to you guys? Like, are you excited? Do you care?
No.
Any blip on the radar? No. Okay.
I'm.
Well, let's put it through the context. Do you care that this is the only form of sports entertainment that you will see?
Well, this is going up against The Last Dance, so it's got some stiff competition.
Oh, I mean, in that case, I'll be seeing you on the Jordan front.
I'm kind of looking forward to the Strowman Wyatt match, like a little bit. I'm just curious. I'm more curious. It's out of morbid curiosity. It's just like what they do with it, just because it's so weird. But
none of these championship matches, outside of maybe the tag team match, feel like they have any stakes.
Yes.
Who cares about Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins? Who cares about Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt? Like,
well, and the fact that
Bray's not going to get.
The fact that it's not the Fiend is where I'm like, okay, this is clearly you lose this one so you can win the next one as Spooky Clown Demon.
I just feel like that's how he should always be described. Spooky Clown Demon.
Spooky Clown Demon.
I agree with you, though. There's not really any stakes. I don't see Braun losing the title. I don't see Drew losing. Like, there's a lot. This is very much a show of like, no titles are going to change hands, maybe. But still, that last Cena match, there's some carryover there of just, I'm curious.
Yeah.
It's not going to have
like the tag matches. I mean, like at least the SmackDown one feels like it has the most, and who doesn't like a fatal 4-way tag match? But like the Raw tag team champions, like I don't like, just keep it on the Street Profits. I don't care. Like, the Viking Raiders don't need it.
We need more Viking Raiders carpool karaoke.
I hate the Viking Raiders. They're the worst.
Do you guys feel like WWE is kind of scared of pulling the big gun on too many big things right now without crowds and kind of?
They don't. Here's the problem. They don't have big things right now. Period.
Yeah.
Oof.
Like, well, I mean, for comparison's sake, look at what AEW was about to do before all this stuff happened. They were building up to their big War Games match, and then that got scrapped. So then they had to reshuffle things. There really wasn't anything on the horizon for WWE outside of Mania that we were going, oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Matt's eyes glazed over because I said AEW.
No, that is not true. That is not true. What I will say though is like typically this season in WWE is kind of that. It is typically that, very much like rebuilding. We don't have a lot. We're setting the table for a lot of stuff. It's kind of filler. Money in the Bank is typically exciting because of the Money in the Bank matches, not everything else. So it's kind of not surprising that it's a little boring.
But they're also in a weird spot talent-wise.
Yeah.
Right?
The fact that you've got two guys in their first reigns as world champion that they just started last month. You don't want to suddenly have either of them drop it right.
Kind of feels like they've been champions forever.
Oh,
well, Drew's on every week. So.
Drew does it. Braun does for me.
So much shade. So, any final things, predictions? You guys have sold the hell out of this.
I mean, the Money in the Bank match is going to be
Don't think you'll stay up for all of Last Dance? Watch Money in the Bank.
It's going to be bat-ass insane because it's WWE is trying. They're they can overproduce some of these cinematic things at times, and so there's the worry there that this isn't just like I don't want this to be like remember the WWF commercial where it's like Stone Cold walking through the office and or The Rock and they're wrestling is happening.
It ends with some guy getting tossed out the building and Vince goes, "Get it?"
Yeah, right. Like I hope it's not that, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, it'll be really interesting.
I want to see somebody smack someone upside the head with like a keyboard on someone's desk.
I mean,
that's the kind of stuff I want.
Throw a person off the building.
Style,
I'm very much that. Yes.
Just throw a person off the building, take the headlines, move on. That's what I say.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we got to wrap this up today. Connor, do you have anything else? You good?
Check out full coverage this Sunday on WWE's section of Comicbook.com, and I'll be back for Double or Nothing here in a couple of weeks.
There you go. And we'll have a recap for Money in the Bank next week just to see if anything happens. We'll say something about it. All right. Thank you for joining in this episode of Comic Book Nation. If you're just joining in on the quarantine arc of our show, we put up new episodes every Wednesday and Friday on Comicbook.com. You can subscribe to our RSS feed and get regular updates about new episodes of the show, or you can subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platforms. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Google Playlists, iHeartRadio, and you can find video of the show on Facebook and the Comicbook.com Facebook page video section, or on YouTube.com, on the Comicbook.com's YouTube page. And we're back on Alexa devices, so you can tell any Amazon Alexa device to fire up Comic Book Nation podcast, and it should throw up an episode for you to listen to. If you want to talk to us about anything we discussed on the show, throw us new topics, or just shout us out and say hello to the group, you can always find us at the hashtag Comic Book Nation, or you can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
At Connor Casey _CB.
At Jim Viscardi.
Hey, you guys finally got your cadence down. Look at that. That'll do it for this episode. Also, we're still in quarantine, so we're not back in the office, even though our crazy state is opening up. We don't know when we'll be back into the Comicbook.com offices, but this is still your chance to leave a 5-star review on iTunes, because when we get back, we're going to probably have to do like most of an episode as a t-shirt review reading blowout, because if we read your 5-star review on iTunes on the show, we send you a free t-shirt. So get on iTunes, leave us 5-star review. Thank you to everybody who's been doing that. And tell a friend, because a lot of people need something to do. And we found a lot of people have been enjoying this. So come and join us here at Comic Book Nation. You can be like a fly on the wall and one of the crew. We love to have you. That'll do it for this episode. We'll see you guys next time. Take care. Stay checked in. And just take care of yourself in general. Peace.
See you.
Later.